Well, new information today about what went on behind the scenes in the making of the movie King of Bain. That's the political film that claims to tell the story of Mitt Romney's time at Bain Capital. It was paid for by the Newt Gingrich super PAC Winning Our Future, and it paints a picture of the GOP frontrunner as a corporate raider out for his own profit. But now, two people featured in the film are speaking out, saying they had no idea this movie was about Mitt Romney or Bain when they were interviewed, and that their statements were taken grossly out of context. Here's a clip featuring my next guests.
And then at the very end, they decided to shut the doors. I was scared, very scared. Shortly after that, in December of '07, my daughter was diagnosed with leukemia. It was real scary, you know, because that was one of the things we worried about, is dropping our insurance and going out on our own, and, you know, not having insurance with a job is really scary. So
Romney and Bain upended the company and gutted the workforce. Now they were ready to make a handsome profit.
They did sell us. We were sold to
a teachers union out of Canada. What does teachers know about wash machines?
Romney and Bain's sale to the Canadians netted a whopping 230% profit for Romney and his investors. The deal left behind a trail of wreckage.
I'm convinced that if you want to create jobs, it helps to have had a job. And I've had jobs, and I'll use that experience to help America.
They never could get enough. No matter how much they already had, they just could never get enough money.
For an economy to thrive, there are a lot of people who will suffer as a result of that.
For Tracy and Tommy Jones, their brush with Mitt Romney and Bain nearly tore their family apart.
We did. We lost our insurance. We didn't have any income, and it was very stressful, and it took a strain on our marriage.
Your whole lifestyle changed because you're making this much, now you're making this much.
Well, Tommy Jones, you just saw in that last clip there, and Mike Baxley, you saw a little earlier in the clip. They both worked at Unimac. That's the company they were talking about, and they were featured, as you saw, in this movie, King of Bain. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for being here. Let me start with you, Tommy, since we saw you and your wife last. First of all, it wasn't Newt Gingrich's super PAC that made the movie. They bought the movie from a filmmaker who is the one who found you. Were you told that this was about Bain Capital or Mitt Romney when you sat down with the filmmaker?
No, ma'am. They just said it was a documentary about U.S. Big corporations taking over small businesses in the U.S.
And they talk about, in the film, about how Bain Capital and Mitt Romney and what they did to your company, which made commercial washing machines, nearly tore your family apart. That's one of the issues you take some real umbrage with. Why?
Yeah, just we weren't even talking about Bain or Mitt Romney when we were discussing that. We were talking about me and my partner was going out on our own to start our own business, and that's when it was getting stressful and everything.
So years later, after Bain had sold the company, after Mitt Romney had nothing to do with Bain, you went out on your own to start a new business, and you were talking about the fear of not having insurance, and that's the clip that they played?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And now, your experience, Tommy, before I get to Mike, at Unimac, your company, once Bain took over, did you lose your job? Did you take a pay cut?
No, ma'am. When Bain took over, actually, everybody at the company received raises when they took over, and I actually went through probably 2 promotions while it was under Bain.
So do you have any issue with the way Bain behaved once it bought Unimac?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I want to get to Mike on this. That clip of you is it's heartbreaking, Mike. You talk about how they shut the doors and your daughter got leukemia and you didn't have an insurance. Did that happen when Bain owned Unimac?
Absolutely not, Megan.
Go ahead.
It was a
time period after Bain had sold us to the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund, and like Tommy said, we were discussing the end of the time period just before they closed the doors. Bain didn't even own us at that point, and we were discussing and talking about, and we were scared going out on our own, not having insurance, almost the same thing that Tommy was just talking about with his family, and that's where we were at in that interview.
So when you were complaining about the risks of not having insurance and so on, you were not saying anything about Bain. You were just talking about entrepreneurship and what the future held for you. Did you make that clear, though, to the filmmaker?
Absolutely. I think they were clear about it. I just think they did not want to use it as we were stating it, and decided to turn it around towards Bain.
Well,
I mean, we had no idea that this was about Bain.
How about you, Mike? Did the filmmaker suggest to you in any way that this was going to be, you know, an attack on Mitt Romney, on Bain Capital, and did you say, I've got some real issues with Bain Capital and what happened once they bought my company?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think you hear me say Bain once in the movie, and I was simply describing us going through the time periods where we were sold from Unimac to Alliance and Raytheon, and then to Bain, and then the Teachers Company, and they actually took the last part off. They only talked. They cut me off after I said Bain, but that was the only time I mentioned Bain. Other than that, we had no idea it was about Mitt Romney or Bain.
I know you guys have some issues with the way they made it look as well, Mike. I know that there's a scene where they show you holding a tissue. You believe they were trying to make it look like you were crying for dramatic effect. You say you were not crying. You want to give some context to that as well. There it is.
Yes, ma'am. It was extremely hot in the room, and I don't know if they did that intentionally or not, but it was hot, and I was actually wiping a little bit of sweat from my brow, and I tend to sweat a little more than most people anyway, and yeah, it did appear, and everybody that's watched it has asked me if I was crying at that point, and you know, and they led that into talking about my daughter getting leukemia and us, you know, then losing our jobs or what have you.
One of the things the guy who bought it at Newt Gingrich's PAC, it's not Gingrich, it's this PAC that's supporting his candidacy. One of his justifications was, he says he's standing by the film, but he says he's going to review it for, you know, context, to make sure everything was in context. But he says, Tommy, that, well, look, he was complaining, you know, legitimately about how they had to rush and how the product, once Bain took over, there was pressure on the sales force to do their work so fast that the washing machines, sometimes parts weren't included and so on. He's pointing to your portion of that interview. Let me just show the portion of the interview, and then I want to give you the chance to respond to that.
So you'd have to hurry faster through your work, and the quality was going down. It got to the point where we would run out of parts trying to push so many out that sometimes we'd send a machine out without a part on it.
So this guy Tyler, who's defending this movie, says, look, this piece was legitimate. You did accuse Bain of cheapening the quality of your products. Do you admit that that's what you were saying in that clip?
That wasn't really pointing towards Bain. That was pointing through, after we became family-oriented from Unimac and Raytheon took us over, that's when we started seeing they wanted more numbers because they just wanted the bottom lines. So we did hurry a little through our work. It was from Unimac to Raytheon to Bain, then to the Teachers Union. It started increasing from when it was a family-oriented company.
I got to go shortly, but I want to ask you, how do you feel? When we saw this film and you saw the way this was portrayed, how did you feel? Tommy?
It makes you very angry that you can do something and somebody else can turn it all the way around.
Mike?
I agree. It's very frustrating. We had no idea that this was going to be used for something like this, political or non-political, but it hurts us, and that's why we want to let the American people know that it's something that they really shouldn't be looking at, as when they make these decisions about Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich.
I know you thought you were participating in a film that was going to be about corporations buying factories. Final question, have either of you made up your mind who you're supporting in the presidential race?
I have not.
I am kind of leaning towards Mitt Romney right now, but I'm still going to wait till he gets down here to Florida and continue to watch the debates and so forth. But I've done a lot of research, and I'm kind of leaning towards Mitt.
Well, we appreciate both of you being here very much, sirs. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We're taking your thoughts on it at